Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Classic Quest podcast with your boy HSR.
And with your lady friend Bonnie over here.
And for the next little bit, Mr. Christopher probably won't be here for the Classic Quest due to just life and stuff.
Yeah.
He'll still be around on the Headspace. Don't worry, you'll still get your Chris fix. If you want to know how he feels, we can ask him to come comment and share his thoughts with y'all.
Yep.
But on that note, before we jump into anything, you can check in the comments the full itinerary of the episode, so you can cut to whatever you care about the most.
Mm-hmm.
And just to let you know, we are a little bit amateurish here. We just kind of go through it, we listen to it, we learn what we can what we can, and then we talk about it and just kind of share experiences with each song, going through the album track by track, just trying to, understand the brilliance of it.
Yep.
And, yeah.
I mean, and then this is just our interpretation of things here. Yeah. It works differently for everybody. Maybe our opinions won't be the same as everyone else's.
Also, there's a good chance you may have heard this project a lot more than we have. So, if you want to happen to correct us in the comments, we do love them. We read all of the comments, such as a couple of weeks back, it was 2 weeks ago, when we talked about Brother Lynch Hung's album, Season of the Sickness. We got a great comment like this one from Jermaine Zimmerman. We also got some cool ones from super old school 1994, but it would have been way too long to read.
Yeah.
But he was saying how he was a Crip, just in response to us. One of the things we said wrong, or I said wrong in the episode. When he references Garden Block, he's referring to the 24th Garden Block Crips. Just stuff I never would have even thought to Google. I'm sure he mentions the number 24 a few times throughout the album, if I remember correctly. He absolutely does, and now we have more context for what that meant. His first album was called 24 Deep. When he talks about people hating him, wanting him dead, he's talking about how gangs like Bloods and Crips don't take too kindly if you try to break away because they feel you aren't down no more. So when he talks about people trying to kill him,
which makes a lot of sense.
He's trying to do his music and get out, break away, and that gets looked down on because it's supposed to be gang for life. Sorry for the rambling, and I don't even think for a second there should be an apology for that rambling, because the truth of the matter is, it's a really informative and helpful comment, and all of these comments as we get them, like, they kind of teach us a lot more and help us, like, knowing what to look for, even as we're going through these reviews, and just understanding the culture more and more as time goes on. So I really appreciate that. And before we really get into it, let's just give a special thank you to Mozart, Linda Williams, and Super Old School 1994. They are our patrons, and they're fucking awesome. We'll talk a bit about that at the end of the episode. But why don't we get into it? So, Ms. Bonnie, why don't you please introduce the album we will be talking about tonight?
Well, everybody, if you didn't already know by the title of this album or this video, we are doing Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp A Butterfly, which came out March 15th, 2015. So not too long ago. It's a relatively new one in terms of the ones that we normally look at. And it left like a lasting mark on a lot of people.
It absolutely did. So why don't you talk to us about Kendrick a little bit, your experiences with him? That's what we do at the very beginning, just to contextualize.
Yeah, I mean, I had heard like a couple of his songs. But I mean, before we started doing like the Classic Quest period, I really hadn't listened to much by him, and so I mean, when we first listened to Good Kid, Mad City, that was probably the first time I'd listened to an entire album of his, or it certainly was. And so like, yeah, that's what kind of got me interested in him and like his music and like his like message and what he's trying to like, what he stands for and everything else. And yeah, I was really excited to do this album. I like saved like not listening to this album because I knew that we at some point we were going to be reviewing it. And yeah, and so I listened to it a few times over the last like week or so. And it's a trip. Like the whole thing is just like pretty powerful and interesting, and like he obviously has like a clear message and like things that he's really trying to say with this album, and I think he does a really great job.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I knew Kendrick a little bit before we started the whole podcasting, just from Good Kid, Mad City. I really liked that project even before we talked about our first album and anything like that. Since then, we reviewed Damn, we reviewed Good Kid, Mad City, we reviewed Section 80. So we've covered all of these, but we never touched To Pimp a Butterfly.
We've been saving it.
And yeah, Bonnie was like very reluctant to do it right away because it's at the same time like, well, once you've done it, then we've covered all of like Kendrick's studio albums, and well, then there's no more Kendrick in that regard to touch until he drops something else. So
Yeah.
you know, you kind of sometimes get that. Like if we do too much, then it's like, oh, well, there's nothing I almost look forward to from that person. I don't know.
But there's a lot more rappers that we can look into.
Absolutely, but anyway, so Kendrick, I don't know. I like the way he puts albums together. I think it's brilliant. I think
he really is like an artist in like the true sense of the word.
I think it's crazy how he got to release an album backwards, and it worked. Everyone was just like, "Yep, that makes sense," because of Damn and the whole backwards thing. But like, he literally just released it a second time, backwards, and still sold it. And I think that's crazy. He got a Pulitzer. That's fucking crazy. But I think, honestly, all things considered, To Pimp a Butterfly is a more interesting album to talk about. It's a more interesting album to listen to. I mean, we'll go through it, go into the opinions. I mean, I admire Kendrick from the conscious side of hip-hop as being one of the greatest dudes to come out of this era of music. Like,
yeah,
across the board, he's one of the best.
He's a classic just himself.
Yeah, he's one of the most interesting artists out there. I don't like him as much when he's the featured artist on someone else's song, but I like his projects and the amount of effort and perfectionism that goes into it. Honestly, you can check out Good Kid, Mad City, or Damn if you really want to hear all my blabbering about how I got into Kendrick and stuff. But yeah, no, To Pimp a Butterfly. This is the one where I first heard it back in the day, and I turned it off because I didn't understand it, and I didn't know why it was great or brilliant. And up until like 2 weeks ago, I was like, I like Good Kids, Mad City. I don't really get To Pimp a Butterfly. Then I listened to Pimp a Butterfly, and I went through the whole process, and I'm like, okay, I understand now. That's how I feel like I understand why this album is brilliant. I mean, like, even just looking at this cover here, just have Kendrick and a bunch of black guys holding a bunch of money, celebrating in front of the White House with a white judge lying dead in like the front of it, and that's like just such a powerful fucking picture. I'm not certain if it's to like show love to a specific piece of something else, like a specific other thing. I tried to look real quick at the beginning of this, but honestly, you just look at that and it's grimy, it's dark, but it's so celebratory and like honest and brutal all at the same time. Like just this picture is a work of art worth talking about for a whole while, but I'm not that good with the visual stuff. But you just feel this emotion, like this is gonna be some intense shit that we're about to get into, and you get the feeling it's gonna be black and political, just from that cover.
Yep.
So bear with us as white folk go through it. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know much else about it. There's, the cover's obviously like a bunch of like black guys with like, and a lot of them are topless. They all have chains. They've got money. There's on like one of them, there's like an X on the eyes. So, like, obviously someone's dead, and I'm just like wondering if that's supposed to be like,
it's like
the president or something.
Supposed to be a judge.
Oh, it is the judge. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it's obviously like hitting obviously a political sort of message.
And there's like a kids right there in the front.
Yeah, there's kids. There's it's obviously affecting, all of like the black boys and men. I guess that's what he's going to be talking about specifically. That's what he knows about. He's a black man, so I guess he's telling that story.
I mean, it is worth noting that this came out in 2015, in the midst of the Black Lives Matter movement really coming to fruition and all that stuff. So
yeah,
the times are charged at that point, I would say. I mean, I'm not saying they're not charged now, but I would say they were more charged then.
Police brutality and a lot of issues coming up, I guess.
Like, I feel like we've taken a couple steps forward since then. I might be wrong.
I hope so.
But I don't know. It's really strong. Then To Pimp a Butterfly. Apparently it was supposed to be To Pimp a Caterpillar at first, but then it was deliberately, like, he wanted to be like Tupac, To Pimp a Caterpillar. Anyway, but then for whatever reason it ended up being Butterfly at the end. And yeah, I guess we can go into that a little bit as we get throughout the album. I think it makes more sense to explain like the point of the title, but it just kind of signifies, you know, how like I don't really fully understand the title. Something along the lines of as a caterpillar, you still have all your passion and whatnot, and then society kind of balloons you into this butterfly, and you know the system's basically pimping you. And I
It's
know,
like but you finally were able to grow into like this like beautiful, thing, and like be your true self and be your true
right.
identity, and then people are trying to like make money off of you. I think
Which is like I know that there's like a large part of this that's like Kendrick's struggle with the industry that he's a part of and the system and whatnot. So you can almost picture how he's this butterfly with his message and his purity, but involved in a world that's just trying to pimp him for everything he's got out of it. And it's such a powerful title. Like it is one of those album titles that you just know it's gonna stand there forever and be like just powerful from the beginning. But anyway, we start off strong on this project with Wesley's Theory. You was my first girl. Before I guess we get too deep into the song, I worked at a video store for about 3 years, and man, there was definitely one year where Wesley Snipes, Steven Seagal, and I forgot who the other one was, but Jean-Claude Van Damme. These three men were competing to put out like the most trash movies in that year. It was like 2005, 6, or 7. It was probably 6, but around then. And so like when I realized the Wesley they were describing a little bit here was him, and I could picture like that era of his career, it really kind of added some context, I think, a bit to I guess the grander point of this.
Okay.
Because I mean, he had some trouble with the tax man.
Yes.
And then
I think he was involved in tax evasion, if I'm not mistaken.
And then when you owe that much money, you take every shitty job that you can possibly take, even if it's a crap, awful movie. Anyway, how'd you feel about this song?
This song is really, really cool. So he basically, it's called Wesley's Theory, and so this is based off of Wesley Snipes' tax evasion story a little bit. But just that he was, involved in like a tax protest, like he was doing it to like make a statement of some sort. And he believed that him and African Americans do not like benefit from spending, the spending of tax money by the government, and like they weren't getting like the benefits, and they weren't seeing like their money well spent. So that's why he was protesting.
Right.
And so like that was pretty interesting, and he ended up going to jail for 3 years because of this protest. So first of all, this song has like a really like interesting, cool retro sound to it, and like kind of like a boppy kind of a sound. And it opens with like every blank is a star, and it's really like an interesting thought. And just kind of black people are being pimped and like used by like the entertainment industry is kind of what's going on. Music was his first love, he starts talking about. And white people are like, we should have never like, allowed black people into like this industry. They don't deserve it, and they, we should have never like allowed them to like succeed and make money. Like, it's just kind of like this kind of ridiculous negative thoughts on like a group of people. And I guess this is coming from like the white people, unfortunately. And then we have some wise words from from Dr. Dre, trying to survive in the spotlight. The government and those in power want to like benefit from like Kendrick's and like other like rich people's like success, because putting him into like the system that supports giving more money to like the rich people that already have it. So Kendrick feels like he's kind of like in this catch-22, that he's kind of involved in this like crappy process as well. And that's kind of like the problem. Like it just doesn't support black communities, and that's kind of like his big issue. And there's also a line that says "Go back home," but then they're obviously taken from their original homes, and like white people aren't like helping people get back home to like their families and everything. So it's kind of like go back home, but like they were taken and brought here, and now they're kind of like don't fit anywhere. They can't go back. They don't fit, into like those communities back there. So they're kind of stuck in this kind of limbo where nobody really wants them anymore, or they don't feel like they fit in anymore. So yeah, it just sucks, and I don't think white people should complain about them, since we took them.
Right.
So anyways, this is just like a fantastic start to this album. It definitely makes clear, like a clear message as to like what Kendrick's feelings are about the industry, about white people, about like a lot of issues that are happening, and a lot of things that he's kind of talking about his personal experiences, but also the community's experiences.
Right.
So definitely a 5 on 5.
Yeah, and I mean, it features Thundercat and George Clinton.
Yeah.
So it comes in with this super, like... So it starts out actually just like almost nothing, right? So the project is like the first few seconds, it's basically silence and just like a needle scratching. So you get like almost this vintage feeling right away.
Yeah, for sure.
And then like just this like super bass-driven, funky, like wop, 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 like that almost like... I don't want to make it sound like dubstep, but like that fat, slappy, like it's clearly fingers hitting the strings of a bass type, like warm sound. I really enjoyed the way it came in. But like, I'm not gonna lie, first time I heard this song, I was like, when I was younger, it was before we had done this, and something that's changed in me is a bigger appreciation for like, I guess, funk and jazz and this type of music throughout all of the different hip hop we listened to. So hearing this, it was like, you just hear the high level of skill and in the instrumentation, in the music being, and it's so alive and it changes so much just in this one song. And I'm kind of glad that we didn't do this last week and that I had even more time to like really sit on this album and like listen to it some more for just how deep and how intricate like it all is from a production point of view. And then like sampling the beginning with the Boris Gardner thing, where that every is a star and who will deny that you and I and every is a star, and it's just like it's such a powerful way to like start a project, just it kind of has almost like this double entendre in the context where it's almost like this is the mission statement of the album while being the criticism of everything I'm about to talk to at the same time. And it's just pure fucking brilliance. Like it is. Kendrick Lamar understands the art of writing at like a degree that like is just so impressive. I don't know. And then he has the little bit right away to kind of reemphasize the point of the title. When the four corners of his cocoon collide, you'll slip through the cracks, hoping that you'll survive. Gather your wit, take a deep look inside. Who they idolize? Are you really who they idolize? Sorry, To Pimp A Butterfly. And then it's like, you break free, you finally become that person and everything. And then just once you are that butterfly and you're shining and shit, you're that star per se, you realize you're just getting pimped by a system, once you finally break free. Because nobody's there to necessarily guide you or to work you through it. It's just, you're there to get fucked, And then Kendrick kind of kicks in. So we have him joining us, and he's basically on the chorus, and he's like, at first I love you, now I just want to fuck, because he's like kind of comparing his relationship with like hip hop and rap as something like at first he loved and he wanted it, he was so enamored with it, and we can even see that on like to Good Kid, Mad City, like the energy there. And now it's like he's so jaded with it, he's just like, I just want to fuck now, late night thinking of you, but I just got till I get my nut and etc. And he just kind of like he lets us know it's like his first girlfriend, his hip hop and stuff. And since then, shit's a little bit broken, shit's a little bit different. Yeah. It's a little more complicated. And then the verses is where I think it gets like more interesting, because each verse takes on a separate like point of view. So verse 1 is Kendrick the rap star. When he gets signed, I'm at the fool. And he kind of has like that higher pitched, young kind of Kendrick voice a little bit that he uses, because his tone of voice definitely is something we can use to age the point of view he's going for, if you really want to look for it. So this is, I perceive this as like a younger, I just got signed, I'm a big rap star Kendrick, so I hit the dance floor, strobe lights in the room, snatch your little secretary bitch for the homies, blue-eyed devil with a fat-ass monkey, I'm gonna buy brand new caddies on fours, I'm gonna buy some shit, I'm gonna go ball out, I'm gonna live the particular life I'm supposed to be living. And then when I get signed, homie, I'm gonna buy a strap straight from the CIA, set it on my lap. What an interesting line, right? Because he's like, as he's flossing through, he like flips the tone. not only is he going to go have fun and do the girls and the blingy side of things, he's also going to go and do the more violent gangster side of things. But but like the fact that he's getting his guns from the government itself, like it's a deliberate strategy to move guns into the hood. So this is all planned out, right? Like this is just how it is, you know? So, I mean, where do these fucking guns come from at the end of the day?
Yeah.
So he gets the guns, brings them into the hood, passes them around, and then I'm going to put the Compton swap meet by the White House, Republican run-up, get socked out, hit the press with a Cuban link on my neck, uneducated, but I got $1 million check like that. It's such an interesting, again, like he's going to get a little political, go against the Republicans, meet the president. There is a picture of Kendrick next to Obama. The chain he's wearing isn't so Cuban styled, but it's still...
It's like a, not a delicate like version, but it's like a...
But he still has
he has a little chain.
He did meet the president with a chain around his neck, and it's just crazy. It's like he's not an educated person. He didn't do all of the normal life things, but still he got paid. He got all this opportunity from this whole thing.
And this is like Obama's like favorite album, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, and then we come to that refrain: we should have never gave them money and stuff because, well, in light of all that, look what somebody can maybe do. They can meet the president, and the response is, well, we shouldn't have given them money. Go back home, respond. That's how I at least took that. I might be wrong.
Yeah.
And then the chorus still has Kendrick kind of coming back in with his jaded relationship talk with the industry, and then we get to see Dr. Dre appear just to kind of tell him how it's easy to get there, but it's hard to keep the spot. Remember that, right? So I guess Dre, as a guy who maybe has kind of gone in and out of the spotlight over the last while, being a guy who in 93 is #1, let's say, and today is, while I would say he's a legend, I can't say he's quite as relevant as he was once upon a time.
Yeah.
He
was, probably in like 2001 when him and Eminem like first like broke out and like they were really huge, so maybe he was relevant then.
But then like since then he kind of comes in, but he doesn't keep the spot. I would say he just kind of resurfaces when he does interesting stuff every 5 years.
Yeah.
But then the second verse trips me out, right? And it's gonna be a long review, people. The second verse trips me out because it's like the government kind of talking back, or the system will say, capitalist America, like what you want. What you want, you a house or a car, 40 acres and a mule, a piano, a guitar. So like that 40 acres and a mule thing is really like, it's the government responding, right? Because that was, I don't know if you know about that one. When slavery was abolished, all the black folk were supposed to receive 40 acres of land and a mule.
Oh, okay, and, I think I have heard about that.
I don't exactly know what happened. I don't believe that ever transpired, really. But so anytime my name is Uncle, so yeah, 40, a piano, a guitar, anytime see my name is Uncle Sam, I'm your dog. So in case you didn't get it, he says Uncle Sam in the next line. And he just runs through it, right? So he kind of, but like, motherfucker, you can live at the mall. I know you're kind, don't have receipts, pay me later, wear these gators. So there's the trap of credit, get that Lacoste, get that high-end stuff, come to the mall, don't worry about it, pay me later. Because he knows, and this is building up to like, the point where you end up owing a shit ton of money that you can't actually afford.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, there's lines like, little white lies, but it's no white collar on you. But it's whatever, though, because I'm still following it. Because you make me live forever, baby. Count it all together, baby. Then hit the register and make me feel better, baby. Your horoscope is Gemini 2 sides, so you better cop everything 2 times. And it's just like this almost brainwashing that goes into folk that they have to do it. Now, I see this all over in like different ways. In different communities get hit differently. But like there is this ridiculous push from like a marketing, let's say, pop perspective that like when you come into money, you got to go buy all this shit. And it is like, oh, you're a Gemini. Well, you got 2 sides to you. You may as well buy everything twice. Buy 2 this. Buy you can't afford that 1 car, but buy 2 just because you're going to need it. And it's just like, whew, you just feel like the pressure that gets put onto it. So then like at the end, when it's like, and everything you buy, taxes will deny, Wesley snaps your ass before 35. So Right. Sorry. And when you hit the White House, but remember, you ain't passed economics into school, and then the whole Wesley Snipes thing. So it's like, because you're not necessarily aware of the full implications of this financial situation, how taxes work, etc. You go buy all this shit because you receive your money, and probably at that kind of money, it's the kind of paycheck where you get the whole thing up front, and they're not removing your 45. Well, we're in Canada, so 45-50% of it off the fucking jump, or whatever the number is. No, I think it's like 35-40 is what they take off right away. So they're not removing that because it's fucking real money. Mm-hmm. So when you go, if you make a $50,000 check, the taxman's going to want his half or whatever the fuck it is in that tax bracket. And if you just spend it all, at some point, he's going to come back and be like, hey, you owe me money. Oh, you don't have it? Jail time, motherfucker. And now you got the whole slave labor situation that goes on in jail and shit. And so you end up looking at this trap where you give this person money.
Yep.
And then you convince them to spend it all, probably into white corporations, let's be real. A lot of these things are not black-owned businesses that are fucking all over the hip-hop, the brands that get sent out.
Yep.
And then, and they just spend all your money, but then you can't pay the government. So, boom, he just takes you, and it's just like a way to ensure that wealth doesn't fucking exist in the black community. At least is how I see that. And then, he kind of ends it with the outro, taxman coming in, and it's just like, it's just such an experience, right? Like, I mean, you all know, like, this song's a 5. There's no real debate about that. It's just so brilliantly and perfectly composed. Like, it's one of those songs where, like, every time you hear it, it's almost like you notice something different. Like, I would have said something similar about a Tool song for how excellently composed it is. It's like fucking great, man. This is whatever. You get the point. For free, ? Interlude is next.
A good bitch. My other nigga is on. You off.
I saw the music video for this for the first time right before we started watching this. This is my favorite one of them. I don't know. It's my favorite one from, like, how ridiculous but funny it is to watch this music video.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And it only has, like, something like 9 million views. So there's not a lot of people that's even seen this.
Yeah, it's maybe it just isn't as popular of a song as some of the other bangers are on this album. So, speaking of the song, before we talk about the video, how do you feel about it?
I like this song. I really liked right away, like, how, like, the jazz influence showed through. I mean, it shows through on, like, a lot of his songs on this album. But, like, this one, like, it definitely sounds like a jazz band is, like, right behind him, and, like, that you're kind of in, like, a lounge or something. So then there's, like, this girl at the very beginning, and she's obviously, like, on the phone or something, and she's dumping this guy.
Fuck you, motherfucker. You a hoe ass. I know where you trying to go, bitch. I shouldn't do that accent, but, you know, that's what she sounds like.
Yeah, and then, because he's not buying her things, and, just like, she needs hair, she needs an outfit, it kind of reminded me of Ice Cube, like, he's not going to, like, just give, stuff away, all these girls are just, like, trying to get something out of you, and then, like, he's just not, having sex for fun, like, he wants something out of it in that case, like, if he's, powerful, he's not just gonna give away his junk for free, and it is just kind of like saying, like, like, it's sort of like the play on women always want something for giving it up, and so now it's kind of like a role reversal a little bit there, I found. And, like, he needs money, and he grew up with barely anything, so he's just, he's not going to give his money away. Plus, like, half of his money is controlled by the government anyways, and it's just, like, everybody, that's in power is controlling it. And, like, he's saying, like, his people, we, like, worked really hard for, like, a long time for free. So, like, now he doesn't want to go back to that. Like, he's making sure that, like, we're all going to be making enough money. Y'all are, so everything about him should be paid for, and I guess especially in this case, his penis, his sexual services should be paid for. So I like this song. I gave it a 4.75. It's solid. It's about the give and take of money and power and control and everything else, especially with black people in this case.
Well, I think the song's a bit about expectations. So I think that the woman at the beginning is supposed to both represent women and what they expect out of men, especially in whatever certain types of women will say.
Well, like there, she's like, I want this like long ass fancy weave and like
Yeah, and
everything
like,
else.
but I think it's also saying it's a commentary on what men are supposed to have and be in order to be perceived as men, like. Because the stuff that she's going on is still a lifestyle. Like, oh, you as a man, your expectation is to provide all of these things for me because this is the way it's supposed to be, etc. Oh, whatever. If you want my whatever, you know, you must do all these things. But at the same time, even if you just think about it, like to get a job, you need to have a nice suit and a nice this, a nice this. And if you can't provide the basic things for anything really, even if you want to have friends, you need to probably have money in this point, you know? If you want to just be perceived as a person, a provider of some kind. And then I think this is kind of Kendrick's response to that. First of all, the way he goes, "This dick ain't free," is one of like the most ridiculous things ever. Now, the first time I heard this song, I fucking hated it because jazz and stuff is not my favorite. It really grew on me real quick. The way he says it, it's so mocking and almost condescending, right? And in the video, he like pops up as this girl. You see her on the phone, and then he just kind of like intrusive. He gets real intrusive in her life, sticking his tongue out, like being all like fucking creepy and shit. And I'm kind of like throwing it out, like drop your expectations. And then he kind of wraps up the stuff like, "You looking at me like it ain't a receipt, like I never made ends meet, eating your leftovers and raw meat, this dick ain't free." So right away, it's like, oh, you're looking at me like I am good enough, I'm fucking disgusting, like I did all of these things that aren't even true, like I'm just whatever, I'm normal. Like what kind of ridiculous connotation are you putting on me? Let's have a conversation about realistic fucking expectations. This dick isn't free. And then, you know, living in captivity, raise my cap salary, celery, telling me it's green is all I need. Evidently, all I see was spam and raw sardines. This dick ain't free. You know, it's all about money. That's a really elaborate way talking about how his opportunity to achieve money and get it is completely capped. Simultaneously, it's all about having money, etc., etc., you know? I love the Mercedes. Do you really think we can name a baby with named Mercedes if we don't even have one with all these special features? And he's like, hell fucking nah, this dick ain't free. And now we're starting to look to a little bit of the consequences and expectations, you know? Like, how is it y'all are having this? Like, how can you actually name your kid Mercedes if you can't even afford to have that shit? Like, just do you think about how ridiculous that type of a notion is? How kind of an expectation? It's like pipe dreams at that point, you know? The almost ridiculousness, you know? And then kind of points out that like sex kind of drives us in, and people are like almost like sex is used in like this escapist way to avoid dealing with problems. So at least, you know, fucking seems to be driving people to maybe not feel the pain or the pressure of life as much, because like, you know, now doggy style shall help, you know, even regardless of a situation. It's like you really feel like people do it so carelessly without considering the actual social costs associated with sex and whatnot. And then it's not free, you know, his dick. In fact, it needs interest. I guess that's implying that he wants a good deal for it. It's 9 inches. Okay. Matter of fact, see our friendship based on business, pension, more pension, you're pinching my percent. It's been relentless. Fuck forgiveness. Fuck your feelings. Fuck your sources. All distortion. If you fuck, it's more abortion. And all of a sudden, it's like, you see that he's like, okay, so your feelings are irrelevant in this. Let's have a real conversation. So it's not really about all the sex and stuff. There are fucking consequences. There's going to be divorce courts. There's going to be babies that are not wanted, that are going to get neglected. There's going to be more abortions, more dead kids that were highly unnecessary, you know? Anyway, and then... then he kind of like ends it with, "Oh, America, you bad bitch. I picked cotton and made you rich," kind of showing that all this poverty and shit that is creating these contexts, is creating this reckless behavior, that's creating this like whole almost cycle, is fundamentally a result of the slavery situation that has all these people feeling a certain way, justifiably so. And then like it's really just ends with like that girl from the beginning going, "I'm gonna get my Uncle Sam to fuck you up," which is a direct tie to the previous song where we know the tax man will fucking come snipe your ass if you're not careful with your situation. This song's kind of addressing that song kind of glamorized the expectation to spend money. This song's almost rebelling back against it, but still pointing in that there's such a heavy social expectation to live that certain way and whatever. And and before I say like the last line or not, because it just ties into the next one so perfectly. I gave this a 4.8. It's pretty amazing. I would say it should probably be a 5, but I don't like it as much as other songs on this simply for the style it's in. It's brilliant. It's possibly one of the most intricate and interesting compositions I've heard. It's just not my cup of tea 100%, so I took off a little 0.2 for that, okay? But I still recognize the brilliance. And then it ends with him going, or with the lady going, "You ain't no king," bringing us in directly to King Kunta.
Something's in the water. Something's in the water. And if I got a brown nose for some gold, then I...
The real question is, what's the yams? Anyway.
The yams is the power that be.
Apparently the yams is an allusion to Ralph Ellison's The Invisible Man, where the unarmed narrator is walking down the streets of New York City when he smells yams, triggering memories of his hometown in the South. The yam is used as a symbol of authenticity. The protagonist famously declares, "I yam what I am." And then, so it can be perceived as how Kendrick is using the yams as a purpose of authenticity. I am just quoting some shit I copied and pasted off of the internet. I believe it was right from Genius, in case anyone's wondering. Yams are also a key ingredient in African cuisine and have significance in some parts of Africa as a sign of social status. Didn't really know that. So basically, it could also be used as a kind of symbol of money and power. And I'm pretty sure I've also seen on the internet that yams can be used to store cocaine, as they're used as a distribution method. So yams just kind of, I guess, is a multifaceted way of describing authentic culture and power in like, I think it's a fruit or
they're like a potato sort of thing. I think they're basically the same as like a sweet potato.
Yeah, so that's that. And then obviously the Kunta part is from Kunta Kinte, a fictional 18th century slave. He's the main character of the novel Roots, The Saga of an American Family by Alex Haley. Mm-hmm. And Kinte is known for having his right foot cut off because of his attempts to escape the plantation and by being like a symbol of resilience and refusing to accept the white American name Toby that was given to him and just kind of holding on.
Toby.
Toby is a fucking disgusting name. Sorry if your name is Toby watching this.
Toby Maguire.
No offense to you, but Toby's a fuck. White people have some terrible names, I'm not going to lie. And honestly, so all of that is, I think, kind of really interesting. Like, there's all of, like, this song came out. It was the first. I think it's the first one I really got into off To Pimp a Butterfly.
I think this is probably one of my either this or Swimming Pools was probably the first song that I ever heard. Probably Swimming Pools since it came out before this. But this is definitely like a fun song. As soon as I heard it, I was like, "Ooh, who's this guy? I really like this song."
Yeah, I just think it's crazy how like there's just so much like backstory that like you got to look at a little bit just to fully appreciate the brilliance of King Kunta, you know, and this song. So now that I've blabbered for a minute with all of the backstory that I looked up, how do you feel about this one?
I mean, this is obviously like a banger. This is like a great song. So he's back, and he's got a problem with people trying to sit in his throne, like while he's gone, and it kind of made me think of like Robin Hood, like when like the king was gone and then like King Don or Richard or whoever was sitting in like the throne. If you guys know Robin Hood, then you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, and then so you talked about Kunta Kinte, and you know he's powerful, and you know he just wants to take his power away. I think people want to take his power. And he loves rap, but he's shaking his head at those who are making themselves sound tougher than what they are. They're a little bit liars in some of their songs. You know, we've heard all about this. Everybody who's like a faker. And then there's something in the water, which made me think of Flint, Michigan, because there's, you know, something in the water that's, you know, and you can't drink it, and I'm pretty sure it's still like that years later. And he's saying that everybody has good or bad can get involved in like bad situations, like if they're just put in these bad situations, so it doesn't matter, even rich and powerful people can end up in like shitty situations too. So, if that's how they end up. So he's kind of like living the life and questioning like the reason why girls are being with him, like if it's just for fame and fortune, or like would she be with him if like if he was broke. Like he's questioning like the reality of like what's happening to, like all around him, and just because of his success. He's made it, and he's kind of like questioning just people's alliances and like with him, and I think with people around him. And overall, this is like a pretty funky song that has like a really like a lot of like good, powerful messages in it. And at the end, I think he's just sort of like self-reflecting, and like he wants to make sure that he's using his time in the spotlight wisely. He's making like good choices, and he's doing what he can for his people. That's going to help in the betterment of them. And give people like strength and power and hope that there is something that can be done, and like there is going to be a change that can be made. So I mean, this is obviously a hit. The song just sounds great. It's it's got this powerful message to it, so it's a 5 on 5 for me for sure.
I mean, it's a clear 5.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even say that without even the brilliance of the writing or anything. You just hear this and it's like a fucking hit. It's one of those songs that packs a punch on a philosophical front. So when you do inevitably get to really considering what the song has to say, there is like a pure message there. But I also feel like it has that kind of universal dance to it appeal. Like everybody just wants to start dancing around, and like you just want to move when you hear it because of that beat, the way it kicks in. And I mean, in the way it responds, almost like, so Kendrick isn't necessarily living that the lifestyle that was expected of him of America in the previous track. In response, he's gonna come in and be this guy, the king. And now he's about to almost present to us his vision of what King Kendrick's all about,
Yep.
I'm like, so yeah, he comes in and he's mad, he's not stressing. I love that. True friends. One question. And then the way the hook just kicks in with that, bitch, where you when I was walking, now run the game, got the whole world talking. And he's like, Kendrick's probably one of the few guys that can probably make that kind of grandiose claim, and it's true. There was, at least at this point, Kendrick had the whole world talking. That was flat out, like, straight up, whatever. So then he's kind of pointing out that, like, people just want to take you out once you get to that position. So we've established already in the first track that holding the spot is there. Kendrick's earned the spot, and now he's recognizing that because he's got the yams, the power, the authenticity, the realness, this thing that people can't take from him, that people are coming for him. And then you got, like, you got what the yams, and then the first verse kind of contextualizes it a bit, right? Like the yam is the power that could be. You can smell it when you're walking down the street. I can dig rapping, but a rapper with a ghostwriter, what the fuck happened? So here it's like I believe he's trying to emphasize the authenticity of it all, and that gives him that power.
It's like, why are you famous if like you don't even have like your own thoughts?
Yeah, like, and like, or because like from his point of view, I guess that the skill, the passion, what he brings to the table, what hip hop used to be driven by, that's authentic, that's interesting. So if you're going to be popping with the ghostwriter, you can't even have that authenticity, you can't even take that pride in yourself. Like, what the fuck happened? How did we get to this place, where people are claiming to write some shit that like they didn't, but he knows that they're kind of sharing bars. I mean, Kendrick was a ghostwriter for a minute, and I know that he would have some first-hand knowledge, swear he's not going to tell, etc. But then I really love the line, so something's in the water, which I do think alludes to Flint, Michigan, but also to this, it's almost like you would say that if like everybody's almost brainwashed into believing some bullshit, like somebody poisoned the water supply and now everyone believes some crap.
Everybody starts acting weird.
Yeah, and then I love, and if I got a brown nose for some gold, then I'd rather be a bum than a motherfucking baller. Like, I'd probably be a lot more successful in life if I liked to kiss ass. I'm just going to throw it in there like that. I would rather be broke with integrity than sell out, we'll say. That's always kind of, when I hear those lines, man, that's an anthem in my opinion. Like, that's just some lyrics that I can really get behind. I've always enjoyed that. Chorus kicks back in. And then it gets super interesting in the second verse because, the Yam brought it out of Richard Pryor. Now, in his case, he had the power and the wealth and everything. And if I'm not mistaken, this is referring to when he did blow and lit himself on fire.
Yep.
And so that kind of temptation, the power, it comes with it. Like, it's not without a risk. And just to show, I think that it's not like that it's all walks of life. It's not just, black famous people. He brings up Bill Clinton, who's, just like a white president who got
super
distracted by
smart
blowjobs.
Like everything else.
Although, why is nobody talking about how John F. Kennedy was bragging about cheating on her all the time, and everybody loves him, but Bill Clinton's blowjob was such a big deal? I never understood why. Why? Anyway.
It was the 60s, man. Peace and love.
Anyway. But yeah, 24/7, 360 days times 2. I was contemplating getting on stage just to go back to the hood, see my enemy, and say, oh, yeah. So it's like, in Kendrick's mind, I think vengeance is a little bit part of his temptation and his darkness and what's driving him. I don't know. I just saw that now and it just kind of clicked a little bit. But I also think that it's pointing out that temptation is just always there. And like when you're there, it's almost amplified. And it's just such a great thing. Chorus comes back in, and then you goat mouth mammy fucker. And then he's kind of pointing out, I was going to kill some rappers, but they did it to themselves. Everybody's suicidal. They didn't even need my help. And then like, he's just kind of pointing out how, like, instead of, like, having to go after people, they just ruin their own fucking careers with their own fucking choices and their own embarrassments and their own kind of stuff, And so, he's almost, like, it almost feels like it's not fair for him to go at people, so he just didn't anyway. And then, he instead focused on his city, screaming Compton. And I love that. I should probably run for mayor when I'm done, to be honest. And I put that on my mama and my baby boo, too. 20 million walking out the court, building woo-woo. I don't fully know what the 20 million court line is about. But I love the idea that when he's finished with his prolific rap career and all of this stuff, his, like, mission that he's throwing out there as like a role model type figure is I should go home and just be the mayor of my fucking city and make sure that it gets like the best. I thought that
Compton actually offered him or people wanted him to be the mayor, or the city of Compton offered him the key to the city.
He did get the key to the city. That back in the day, I retweeted that they gave him the key to the city, and then the city of Compton hearted my tweet, and it made me happy. But yeah, and I really love the, fuck the judge, and made it 20 past 25, and there I was, little nappy-headed with the world behind him. Life ain't shit but a fat vagina. And you got to just consider it. Now that I didn't understand that line up until I realized that it's the statistic where black men aren't supposed to live past 25, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So here we have Kendrick making it past and surviving it, a little guy who doesn't really understand even what's supposed to happen. Like, I can't even imagine being in a community where, there's no life plan for after 25 because you're probably just not going to fucking make it. Like, if you look at my community, there's a lot of life plans for after 25. Not good ones. We have really shitty traps in place for Montrealers after 25, like buy a condo and lose your wealth. But, like, still, it's better than nothing because you're just going to fucking die. I don't know. And then
real story over here, guys.
It's true. Anyway, and then I love straight from the bottom, this the belly of the beast, from a peasant to a prince to a motherfucking king. And it's just like his story thrown into those lines, this like triumph of finally like being the king. And then bitch, where you and I was walking, and then there's a gunshot. The song kind of pauses. By the time you hear the next pop, the funk shall be within you. A little pause. Second gunshot. The chorus kicks back in. The song fucking ends. And then, we want the funk. Now, if I give you the funk, you're going to take it. And that's kind of interesting, right? Because people are almost craving, they want the funk. We can call it the realness, the whatever. And then Kendrick's response is, well, if I give it to you, is that really what you want? You're actually going to act on it? You're going to do something with it? So it's almost like a challenge back to everyone. And I love it. I love the way this song feels. Flawless, 5-on-5. Amazing track. Then we get the first line of the poem. I remember you was conflicted, misusing your influence. And it flows right in to the next track, which, is Institutionalized.
All right, let's do it.
Truthfully, her love will spoil you. Usually you're never charged, but something came over you.
All right, Bonnie, why don't you walk us through your feelings on Institutionalized?
Well, I mean, first of all, I also wanted to mention that Bilal, Anna Wise, and Snoop Dogg are featured on this song.
Very true.
So, I mean, right away, it's kind of black people are often, like, institutionalized, so it's often into, like, mental institutions or into jail. or they're put into like, certain systems. So they're kind of trapped by the government, and they feel that, that's just kind of where they are. And then like, you don't get out of this shit until you like wash it off of yourself. So, nothing's going to change unless you make a change. So tale of his experiences in like the music industry, like obviously like, what's going on for him. And Snoop is there supporting, on the, this experience as well.
Well, Snoop's kind of like playing a role of like Slick Rick, I believe it was, Interlude on Children's Story. It was like Once Upon a Time. And so Kendrick's kind of like walking out the story. And I feel like, Snoop's just kind of also showing like as a stamp, like Kendrick is the guy, a little bit. Anyway.
No, for sure. And I think that that's definitely saying something too. The fact that like Snoop Dogg is featured on this album, that, that's pretty great. Like, if you can have Snoop Dogg on your album, like, that's pretty awesome. That must mean something. And I think that, he's also talking about the fact that he steals from the rich to give to the poor. And he feels kind of like Robin Hood. And, that's just how he feels. And I think that's kind of like an interesting, like, way of looking at things. And that's kind of like how his people look at him, maybe. To be kind of like a Robin Hood super, like figure like that. And Snoop tells the story of like little Kendrick and, kind of he's breaking free from the institutional lies. And I think that that's kind of like a play on words there. Institutionalized, institutional lies. So like this one was really like creative sounding. He has a lot to say about like how, about himself and how people are, reacting to him now and like his wealth and his success, and like how Hollywood is like kind of weary of him, and like the industry is kind of like not really sure what to think of. Like he's, think of him, he's just kind of like a weird character. He's, political, they're not really sure how to handle him. Like nobody like wants to get involved in something, if he's going to write a song kind of about the system, he's, they may be mentioned or something that they've done, if they get involved in like with him. So I guess like I can see like why he's kind of like looked at, differently. So I give this a 4.25. It was good, but it wasn't like my favorite song on the album.
That's fair. So Institutionalized to me is kind of like we've gone from the point of like now Kendrick's the king, whatever. He's trying to establish himself as the king, we can say, in terms of societal like standings and whatnot. But we have to like acknowledge his past, and I think it's an interesting placement, right? Because right after the King Kunta, we have almost what would be the political hit against him in this day and age, where you went through his Twitter and that's where Kendrick comes back from. And I think this song, when he's using the term institutionalized, it's a mindset, it's a state of mind. So we've already looked at how there's certain expectations on this album that exist that you have to deal with, that and that Kendrick is trying to be this super authentic person to fight back. Yeah. But here it's like instantly right after the struggle that comes from trying to fight that with your past or the habits that are ingrained into you from your youth and whatnot comes into it, right? Like, so this is obviously a little bit about money, power, and image and whatnot. So like, what's money got to do with it? When I don't know the full definition of a rap image, I'm trapped inside the ghetto. I ain't too proud to admit it. Institutionalized. They keep running back for a visit. Hold up, get it back. So here it's like, you have Kendrick who's like, okay, so all of a sudden I'm a famous rapper. There's this image thing I have to worry about now, et cetera, et cetera. I got to be a certain way. He's chosen what he wants to be. But at the same time, it's like he also wants to run back to the hood and go back into the same kind of life that may have previously existed with his influence and power. Whereas, just keep in mind, the first line of the poem was just read about misusing your influence, right? And then you got to imagine as an almost criticism of all rappers, of all celebrities, of when you finally get out, what do you do with your image? How do you try to, live this new life while you still have that struggle? I mean, shit, I went from the lower class to the middle class. It's not so drastic, but I still feel that like lower class mentality, like every day of my life is a struggle when I consider how I'm supposed to behave in this middle class reality, Mm-hmm. It's not the same thing, but I think it's helps me empathize with where he's coming from, you know? And then I love that if I was president, I'd pay my mama's rent, bulletproof Chevy doors, lay in the White House and get high. Lord, whoever thought? Like, you know, it's just like when you're picturing being president, all these ludicrous things that you could do. Like, what's one of the most ridiculous things you could picture a president do? Lighting up a blunt in the Oval Office and getting high and, like, all sorts of crazy shit, you know? And then
Who's to say that Mr. Obama did not do that?
I'm not going to say that. But then I love how immediately after it's like, master, take the chains off of me. So that like line of thinking, I think, is supposed to be these ludicrous hood fantasies. And now it's like, strip the chains off. I got to be free, etc. Then the beat changes and there's an ode to, I think it's Planet Rock that has the zoom, 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 zoom kind of stuff in it. So they're kind of throwing back almost to like the very beginnings of hip hop and just a different time when the focus was on something different. I watched a couple of videos lately on how hip hop seems to now currently perpetuate modern hip hop perpetuates a lot of the themes and encourages certain things that the that was like being fought by almost the original versions of hip hop, which were supposed to be a replacement for violence and things like that. So I thought that was super interesting. And then Kendrick kind of comes into his verse where it's like, you know, life to me is like a box of chocolates, quid pro quo, something for something. That's the obvious, you know. So I believe that he's kind of showing how he's put in all sorts of work, so he's gotten these kinds of rewards and benefits, and other people like who maybe didn't try as hard or do the same kind of life path as him aren't getting the same thing, you know. He's like, be all you can be, true, but the problem is dream only a dream if work don't follow it, you know, like lines like that show like it takes a little bit more than just having your head up in the clouds to achieve your goal. Then he's got stuff like, remind me of the homies that used to know me and I follow this. I'll tell you my hypothesis. I'm probably just way too loyal. K Dizzle will do it for you. Might think I'm a god. Truthfully, I've been spoiled. Usually, and then that's just, again, interesting. It shows that in that Messiah figure that they view him as. So he's made it out there. He's got all this money now. And instead of going out there and maybe chasing their own dreams or their own version of what he has, they're kind of relying on him to provide. So he comes in and he gives everyone jobs and he sets everyone up and everything, you know. And then he tells us maybe a specific story. He doesn't name a name, but he goes in almost someone specific, this person that he takes to the BET Awards with him, somebody in his posse. And then normally this person's so chill and everything, but he started hearing about how they were seeing all these rollies and stuff, all this jewelry, and all of a sudden they went into like this hood mentality. I can snatch some shit. I can make a quick butt. Even though they're there with fucking Kendrick Lamar and all this other shit, you know?
Yep.
And so he's kind of thinking on this, and he goes back to when his grandmama said, you know, shit don't change until you get up and wash your ass. So what he's saying, what this is supposed to, like, I guess, tie into is the idea that there's this hood mentality or this way of thinking. And I have seen people who are from Montreal's versions of the hood, right? Like, my mom doesn't exactly live in the best part of town and stuff. Like, their dog got kidnapped and extorted for like $400, that type of shit. Like, it's not the super gangsteriest, but like it's one of those parts of towns that aren't safe, you would say.
Okay.
So the way this mentality kicks in, you start talking to people and you realize that like they just don't think in a way that is optimal for freedom or to get to a better circumstances.
Right.
So you stop believing things are possible, etc. And I can only imagine that in the truly serious situations and environments that are being described here, where it's like 10 times what the worst thing in Montreal's got him. You know, like, I could see how even when a really good thing like Kendrick Lamar hooking you up with a job is around, the temptation of all of those bad habits that have been around you, well, that's the way you're thinking. That's the way that you are. It's instilled into you. So you're now at the BET Awards, an amazing thing, a cool opportunity. And then you may even fuck it up just because of where you're from and all of the things you've done in your life up until that point. And you don't believe that you're going to get this good thing forever or whatever. I'm just kind of maybe projecting a bit, but I thought it was super fucking deep. And then Snoop Dogg comes in and he talks about kind of Kendrick a little bit. And then Kendrick comes in with like this whole like second verse where he's again discussing just how fucked up like the wealth disparity of things are. Like, fuck am I supposed to do when I'm looking at walking links, the constant big money talk about the mansions and foreign webs, the private jets and passport, presidential glass for gold bottles, gold models, giving up the ass for. Like, this whole situation is so glamorous, and he's probably being exposed to it. He's seeing it all quickly because he got it. It's a recession. Why the fuck he got King of the Diamonds, you know? And then you really just consider, like, Kendrick on the one hand sees how poor everyone is, how there's such a lack of money while there's all this richness going on, all this fucking crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
No more living poor, meet me at the 4-4. When I see him put the per diem on the floor. Now, Kendrick, know they're your co-workers, but it's going to take a lot for that pistol goes cold turkey. Now I can see his watch on the TV and be okay, but see I'm on the clock and watch that landing in L.A. Remember, steal from the rich and giving back to the poor? Well, that's me at these awards. I guess grandma was warning a boy. So now we find out that the person he was talking about is himself at these BET Awards when he's looking around and he's realizing that everything about this situation is just fucked up, right? Like, he's coming from this awful, poor environment, and all of a sudden he's, like, laid out, surrounded by truthfully ridiculous displays of wealth. Truthfully, things that are like, wow, man, if I could just take this shit and bring it back to Compton and just steal some shit, blah, 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 it's going to be good. And then he finds himself...
I mean, to be fair, I mean, if you think about it, you know, going to, like, you know, these kinds of, like, extravagant, like, awards, you know, shows that, you know, everybody in the world is watching, like, there's so much wealth and there's so much, like, flashy, you know, like, you know, show, I don't know, they're all just showing off. And, like, imagine, like, this kid that, like, you know, basically, like, last year was, you know, on welfare or whatever, and was, like, you know, just stealing to, like, get by or whatever. Like, not necessarily Kendrick, but, like, anybody. Right. Like, it's, like, they all must be thinking this.
Well, I mean,
I feel
like there's just two sides to it. So you're going to have the one person who's going to be selfish, who's going to go, oh, shit, this is my life now, you know, and get all up in it. But
and, like,
Kendrick,
be wanting to take advantage of it, you know, if, like, if you're in, like, a, you know, sharing, like, a room or something with, you know, Ariana Grande and she puts down a diamond ring or something, you're not going to try to grab it. Like, if
well,
this
I mean,
is, like,
I think it's like, again, it comes down to there's two types of people, right? So Kendrick is doing it from more of a Robin Hood perspective.
Yeah.
But, like, I think it's the impulse of saying, well, if he does take that ring, he's fucking himself at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Versus not doing it really gives him the potential to earn that wealth. You really have to change your mentality, right? Like, that institutionalized behavior is just going to trap you and kind of keep you down. And I think that is pointing out that, or I guess my whole, like, selfish versus not selfish person is irrelevant. Whatever your motivations are, it's about, I guess, the impulsive quickness of taking that thing now and having it because I've been brought up to just snatch what I can and get it as quick as possible, or else bad things happen.
Are you in it for the long run?
You know, and you're not really taught to invest and all that good stuff. I don't know. This song is really fucking cool. I give it a 4.75. I don't know. Like, I feel like For Free is a little more brilliant in terms of what it is. I feel like this is still fucking great, though. It's a really cool song. As far as, like, the sound of it goes, it's not really my favorite in terms of something I would throw on to listen, but I still think it's a brilliant, fucking awesome song. Keep in mind, I'm giving, like, a 4.75. It's nearly fucking perfect, in my opinion, just to throw it out there. I really admire the level of depth and the intricacy that kind of went into the song, is all I'm trying to say. And he follows that up, and then if these walls could talk, they'd say stuff.
They would say a lot of things.
Someone to live in, I'm just to relieve tension. Me, I'm just a tenant. Landlord said
oh boy, let's talk about sex, baby. That's what these walls are.
Basically.
I didn't take a whole lot of notes on this album because I figured it'd be good to have the lyrics in front of me. But my only real notes is, the walls are vagina walls. Because that was like not all of the walls, but the first walls being described, you know? Mm-hmm. But how do you feel about this song?
I've started all of them. You go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to be polite because I talk a lot more than you.
That's okay. Either way, you're still going to talk a lot more than me.
I don't know. I like how the poem kind of continues. So I remember you was conflicted, misusing your influence. Sometimes I did the same. And then a woman moans. And then if these walls could talk, kind of kicks in and it's just like building up. And then it just stops and goes, sex. And, you know, you get the idea that maybe these walls are like, going to tell us a little nefarious story. It's going to be a little bit steamy. And if you're talking about misusing your influence and how sometimes you're guilty of it yourself, so maybe Kendrick, the famous rapper over here, is using his clout to attract ladies for some kind of purpose, So she just want to close her eyes and sweat with you, exercise her right to work it out. It's true. Shout out to the birthday girls. Everyone deserves a night to play. She plays only when you tell her no. So here you have like this woman who wants to go out, that kind of like have a good time, maybe do something that she isn't supposed to do, maybe something that isn't okay. And so she just wants to have a night to escape, to kind of do whatever. And that's fine. And then I like that she plays only when you tell her no. Like, this isn't like, a clean situation. Like, it's got to be a little bit off. It's maybe like a OPP type of thing, like Naughty by Nature would be talking about. And then I like how he kind of starts, if these walls could talk, they tell me to swim good. No boat, I float better than he would. No life jacket, I'm not the god of Nazareth, but your flood can be misunderstood. So understanding it's about vagina walls, that's a particularly interesting thing, but it could also be about the emotional walls that like kind of confine her, and he's written in a double entendre kind of way. But I prefer to go with the vagina thing first. He makes it wet and gushy, and basically we find out he's not like there's another person and he's better than them, so it's like, the reason it's working so well is because he's got this passion or something that this other person isn't necessarily providing her. And then when you picture your flood can be misunderstood, walls telling me of pain and resentment, need someone to live in them just to relieve the tension. So her splooshing is what I'm picturing. That's what the flood is. It's
These are all technical terms, folks.
Relating to like the fact that she hasn't gotten it in a while or properly from the main person, and here comes Kendrick the Savior wreaking havoc deep down in her vaginal area. And the landlord said these walls vacant. Then he's just a tenant. The landlord said the walls have been vacant, so he's clearly not the regular person. He's just visiting for a quick minute, even though the walls should have somebody inside of there more regularly. In case you were confused, the interior is pink and the color is coordinated, so it's a styled up vagina with the right colors.
I was thinking about the pain that he was describing earlier on. Maybe I was thinking it was like, even on her period, like that kind of,
maybe.
Like it created like a bloody image in my mind, and I didn't, just kind of brought me to that.
I like how he interrogates every nook and cranny, so he really goes in deep to explore all the pleasure points. It's amazing. These walls want to cry tears. They're happy. Get it? It splooshes because of his magic stick. The walls can never hold up. Every time he come around, his demolition might crush because he's smashing that shit up. But at the same time, if you now think about it from the sense of walls around your emotion, like women, I'm not going to say just women, but in my experience with dating, it's always been women. The women I've dated, many of them have had,
before me, obviously,
and sometimes, they've had walls that are block emotions that you have to, defense mechanisms to work around. And an effective way to get around those walls, in my experience, has been to fuck her like she hasn't been fucked in ages, to put it bluntly. But you smash that shit and you do the look her in the eye, kiss her, make her feel all sorts of special,
step by step,
show her
guys.
she's fucking loved and passion filled. She like sends that shit out proper, and then all of a sudden you broke in like a ninja to the emotion places she's not supposed to be, really giving you a sense of attachment, even in a nefarious situation, especially with a neglectful lover. So if these walls can talk, whatever, he goes on. Then the second verse kind of continues on with that theme. They tell him to go deep, yelling at him continuously. I can see your defense mechanism is my decision. Knock these walls down, that's my religion. Like I was just saying, the walls and all of this. So simultaneously, access to the vagina is giving you access into the mind of the person, and there is a correlation between tender, caring, loving, and your ability to get a lady to open up to you in all levels, in my experience. And then, I think the real key point of the second is like, I've been on the streets too long, looking at you from the outside in. They sing the same old song, but how the walls always the cleanest. I beg to differ. I must have missed them. I'm not involved. I'd rather diss them. I'd rather call on you, put your wall up, etc. You got the sense that like she's kind of like presenting herself in a certain way, like these walls never get any love, etc. Maybe he's hurt on the street. Okay, she's a bit more loose than that. Maybe I'm misinterpreting this. If so, I apologize. But like, it almost got the sense that he was kind of obsessing about her and wanted her, and then all of a sudden, now that the situation is the way it is, he's finally getting it. Like, I believe he uses the word religion at one point to like really imply that the focus on smashing this particular person, and now he's finally getting it. Maybe it isn't necessarily the same thing as he wanted. Anyway, so he smashes, and then he gets the chorus comes in again with Anna Weiss. This time Thundercat's there, Bilal singing there, just in case I didn't forget it. Mm-hmm. And then the sounds change again, and we get a third verse that changes the entire tone, right? Now it's talking to because this girl is dating a guy who's locked up, is what we find out here. And now we find out that this guy is there. If your walls could talk, they tell you it's too late. Your destiny, accept your fate. Burn accessories and stash them where they are. Take the recipe, the Bible, and God. While telling you that commissary is low, race war is happening, no calling CO, no calling your mother, etc. So this guy's in jail, etc. And then we find out how if the walls could talk and kind of like tell him that basically this is the guy whose girls Kendrick's fucking, and that Kendrick is abusing his power to hurt this particular person. So whatever, this guy did something to Kendrick, and Kendrick's revenge is to go in there and fuck his girl and get her to fall for him and all of this stuff, and use his situation of him being in prison and unavailable to hurt him and to betray everybody in that kind of a way. And that is how Kendrick was abusing his influence, and he's kind of giving us that story in here. Yeah. And it just kind of builds in, and then like it's really, really like a crazy, crazy song. And then it ends again with the poem, which we'll touch on, I guess, before we move on to the next track. But I mean, I give this a 5. Like, it's deep as fuck. It's a great story. I love the way this song feels. Like, it's got a great vibe to it. It evolves in such an interesting way. I mean, it's cool. It's not what you're expecting based on how the song starts.
Interesting. I like that. So yeah, I mean, this is like the same intro that we had on this the third song, and like there is like kind of repetition that's kind of like carried out throughout the whole album, but not on every song. And then he's having sex with a girl on her birthday, and he loves it when he's in a woman. Obviously, like I feel like most guys enjoy that. And, he's obviously, talking about, the bedroom walls and maybe her vagina walls, all these things. And, they may have been pure at one point, but they're dirty now. So, as, things happen and guys happen. And then we have the jail walls, which are, where the guy is. And that's kind of why, this woman is, like, missing her man because he's stuck behind them. And like that's why like she's pretty horny, I guess. And she feels better for being with Kendrick, and she likes that he's famous, and he's obviously not in jail. And that he did it because the guy deserves it. I think that the guy in jail is maybe like someone that Kendrick obviously had some sort of issues with. But I think in the end Kendrick still regrets his decisions that he's done. And he says that kind of like hate doesn't make you feel good. It only just causes, internal pain for you. So this song is like pretty heartfelt and pretty interesting. And it's, I don't know, it tells an interesting story, and it's like a different kind of like feel on the album so far. But it still wasn't my favorite song on the album, but it's still a good song. So I gave it a 4 on 5.
All right. Then it ends with the poem, because this poem is kind of what links all the songs together, and then we find out it's who the poem is to at the end. You all know who the poem's to, but like still here we add in, so sometimes misusing your influence, sometimes I did the same, abusing my power full of resentment that turned into a deep depression, found myself screaming in a hotel room, and then it goes into you.
What's the influence you speak of? You preached in front of 100,000 but never reached up. I fucking tell you.
First time I heard this song was when a music video called God is Gangsta came out. And it was this song and a song that comes later on this album stuck together. And I saw this music video, and at least for this portion, it's like Kendrick alone in a room drinking out of this bottle. And I remember my first thought was, doesn't Kendrick not drink? Because at the time, that's what... Anyway, that was neither here nor there. But man, it really fits the song's energy a lot. But like, it just... For me, from the poem, right, because he finds himself alone screaming in a hotel room, that music video setting, and then this starts off with just Kendrick screaming, like, ah, whatever, he's just screaming. And like...
Well, it's obviously like a very like strong emotion. When you hear somebody just like screaming like that, you're like, there's obviously like something more in it.
Man, it's... go on. You should start this one, I'm telling you. You should start them.
Okay. So loving you is complicated. I mean, he keeps saying that over and over again. So we kind of like, there's obviously issues going on, somewhere. And then maybe the girl, I was thinking about the previous song, like maybe like the girl whose guy's in jail, is like, maybe like that's kind of like what he's talking about. That it is difficult to be with somebody that's in jail, I guess. But he's obviously screaming at the beginning of this song in a hotel room, and whatever's going on. He's obviously not home. He's away. He's suffering in some way. He's kind of talking to himself. He's kind of having like an internal argument. We have like the sounds of like kind of like housekeeping, like showing up and like knocking on the door, speaking Spanish, like this lady, and she's just saying whatever, I guess, like she wants him to be like, hello, like, like I want to like come in and clean the room or whatever. But like he's obviously like not distracted by her like at all. Like he's just like crying and upset, and like he's kind of like crackly in his voice, like when like you're trying to talk through tears and through pain and everything like that. He's kind of like judging his own behavior. He's obviously kind of like self-reflecting and a little bit depressed, I think, when you start thinking about all of like the reality of the world and like what your part is in it, I guess. It can be difficult at times. So he's just kind of like not being he's not able to be involved with like his friends and family in the hood because he's on tour or whatever. And he kind of talks about when he FaceTimed like his friend who was in the hospital after getting shot at, I believe. I think he was shot at, right?
Well, yeah, but it was more like he FaceTimed instead of visiting.
Yeah, like that's exactly it. Like he just couldn't be there. He was away. He was on tour, and he feels guilty because of that. And then turns out that later on he was still in the hospital, and his friend passed away. So he obviously feels guilty for not being there, for not being there to support him, for not being there in like these critical moments for the family and everything else. But he's just trying to like live his life and trying to succeed like on his own, and just he keeps getting pulled back into the hood when things like this keep happening. Which is fair enough. This is his life. These are his friends that he grew up with, so it makes sense. And then like he's kind of like drinking and he's drunk, and like you hear like the water and like the drinks like clinking and like him gulping, like you can hear all of this. I don't think
it's water.
No, I don't think it's water, but like you hear like the drink obviously of like the bottle, of the alcoholic bottle, I assume. And like he just kind of feels very suicidal because of all of his behaviors. So that's pretty much the song. It's very like honest, very like heartfelt and raw, and it's real shit that he's talking about here. And it's a side of him, and a side of like most people that we don't often see, like such like a raw like at his kind of like rock bottom, kind of like where he's kind of like shouting and this is it, and he's so upset and miserable and everything else. So it's a great song. It's very powerful. I give it a 4.75. I didn't give it a 5 because it's not really something that I would want to listen to often, because it is quite an upsetting sound kind of a song. But yeah, it's a very good kind of song.
Yeah, this song has an honesty to it where, who hasn't hated themselves, right? And I think part of what makes this song particularly brilliant is that you have this rapper who is King Kunta, the king of the world, and at this time debatably considered one of the best rappers in the world, sitting here telling us about how much he fucking hates himself and the internal conflict and war that goes on inside of his mind. As a 30-year-old person today, I mean, I have many of these battles inside of myself, and I feel like people just try to be immortal all the time, and nobody wants to admit this type of shit exists, you know, or this type of depression, or this type of maybe mental health related stuff even goes on. So just to have this self-disgust and hatred, you know, but projected the way he does, this honest, like, conversation, apparently in the studio sessions, he like recorded this in the dark, pacing around the room anxiously. Like the engineer was like, it's fucking uncomfortable. Like it was fucking weird, but it came out so strong. Just like the loving you was complicated. Loving you was complicated. Like, you know, and if you think about it, like I understand what it's like to have that feeling where loving myself is a complicated thing. Like you want to, you think you should do it. Everyone says, oh, you need to love yourself. Like you have to. It's almost like you're expected to love yourself. But it's fucking complicated when you've got a past and shit, right? And just the way it starts, it plays blame on you still, plays shame on you still. Feel like you ain't shit, feel like you don't feel. Damn, like, because at the end of the day, only you know all of the bad things you've done in your life, or all of the things you're ashamed of in your life. And as much as people might pretend that they live with no regrets, we all live with some regrets. We all live with some shame, even the shameless ones, you know? You still feel it, or you numb it, you know? Yeah. Confidence in yourself, breaking on marble floors, watching anonymous strangers telling me that I'm yours, but you ain't shit. I'm convinced your tolerance nothing special. What can I blame you for? I can name several situations. So here it's like the world is telling you one thing and setting you up on this pedestal and preparing you for like saying you how meaningful you are and everything. But on the same thing, he's kind of calling him out and saying, nah, that shit isn't even a real thing. Oh, you want to know what you can be blamed for? Let me tell you some stuff, you know? And then his sister apparently got pregnant, you know, which is something that, as we know from Keisha's song and all of that, is something super fucking important for him to, like he's like, I played the song, don't fuck guys, and, you know, whatever. Yeah. So even though hundreds of thousands of people have heard his message, etc., like he fucking failed with like the person in his mind most close and important to himself. Yeah. So the fact that his sister ended up meeting somebody and having that moment happen means that his words did absolutely nothing. So he's like, you fucking tell you fucking fail, you ain't no leader, I never liked you, forever despise you, I don't need you. Like he's almost like yelling this at himself, like, you know, you did all this shit, you're fucking useless, you can't handle, like it doesn't matter really all of the good things you've done, of the things that are the most important, the things you're supposed to be doing, you're not hitting it in, you know? Numbers lie too. Fuck your pride. That's for dedication. Thought money would change you, made you more complacent. I fucking hate you. I hope you embrace it. I swear. And then the chorus comes in again. And you get that sense where you can picture him like imagining when he was young, I'm going to get this money, this power, this influence, this clout. And instead, he ends up maybe doing some things like fucking the next dude's girl when he's in jail. So that whole song, I believe, contextualizes the type of regret he can live with today. And now we're here as he's fucking internalizing all of those negative emotions and blasting on himself like that. And then you got the housekeeping comes in, and it's almost like that indicates some time has passed. So at the beginning, he's starting to drink. Now he's just fucking gone. It almost sounds like he's crying, you know? You're the reason why Mama and them leaving.
Well, maybe that's why housekeeping showed up, you know? Maybe they were just checking on him.
Oh, yeah. No, you ain't shit. You say you love them. I know you don't mean it. I know you irresponsible, selfish, and denial. You know, and this is where he starts picturing, like, this whole second verse is kind of like, you fucking left your home. You know, if you were really down for these people, if you really were somebody that was about your community, you cared about them, you would have been there. You would have literally and physically been there. And then Bonnie already brought up how he like FaceTimed his friend who passed away and stuff. Yeah. But he's like, you FaceTimed him one time. That's unforgiving. You even FaceTimed him instead of a hospital visit. Guess you thought he would recover. Well, third surgery. You couldn't stop the bleeding for real. Then he died. God himself will say you fucking failed. You ain't trying. And I can really relate to that. Like, just, you start getting so caught up in your life and your world and stuff, you know, and then you leave where everyone was. And all of a sudden things start happening, and hospital visits or whatever, relatives or whatever happens, and, you know, you got another video to make, or you got another thing to do, or you're on your grind, or you're so focused, or you're the superstar of your own life and shape that, you know, you're not there anymore. You deserted people, you know, so while 100,000 people may have heard you, while, you know, maybe people care about some of the things you do in your life, sometimes the people who count on you the most then end up getting disappointed as a result of your choices. And I think that that kind of regret is something that weighs down heavy on people. And I love the way Kendrick put it there. And then verse 3 is fucking gone. He's like practically, I think he's literally crying in verse 3 when he's rapping this out. I know your secrets.
Probably is. I mean, that's his kind of style.
Yeah, mood swings is frequent. I know depression is resting on your heart for 2 reasons. I know you and a couple block boys ain't been speaking. Y'all damn near beefing. I see it, and you're the reason. And if this bottle could talk, you know? So it's like he's got some problems with some people in his life, and at the end of the day, it's like his pride, his arrogance. He feels like he's the problem, he's the situation, everything's his fault. And basically, as he's drinking more and he's getting fucking drunker, he's blaming himself for more and more. And basically, he's holding everything inside. He's not sharing his secrets with anyone. Nobody really knows what's going on and stuff inside of him. And I just like I like how it's like, and about that shit you thinking, and that time you gulp, 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 I'm about to hurl, I'm fucked up, and I ain't as fucked up as you. You just can't get right. I think your heart made a bulletproof. Should have killed your ass long time ago. And then he goes into the whole suicide thing. And if I told you secrets, the world of no money can't stop a suicidal weakness. And so you really just have a depressed and emotional Kendrick in a hotel room, glugging down a bottle, having an entire war with himself, culminating in the fact that he's so disgusted with himself. The truth is, money didn't change shit. It didn't help. At the end of the day,
money doesn't cure his depression. He's still sad.
He's still, all of his problems are really just there. And like, it's almost like at the end of the day, when he looks into himself and he looks into the whole situation, he can't live with himself. He's just disgusted with himself. But I also think that the important part of this song, on top of exploring those emotions, is that the drunker he gets, the worse those feelings get. And that, I mean, alcohol is classified as a downer, which is a depressant, which means that by virtue of what the drug does, it makes you sadder and whatever. And I think that there is a big problem with alcoholism in poor communities. And I think he's kind of pointing out that maybe the way we drink away our problems and stuff is kind of making this a bigger cycle, a more relevant and an active thing. And so he's visualizing what happens in that flow, like when you get drunk, and how it can almost be the catalyst that makes you turn on yourself. And it might be a way to explain how somebody can get to a point where they put a gun in their mouth and blast, you know? And I thought that was really strong. I mean, to me, this song's a 5. When I look at it, like, this is a work of art in and of itself. I've never heard a song that better captured these emotions the way he did, and everything. Like, it blew my mind. This is definitely one of the best songs on the album, and I'm saying that on an album full of 5s. This is a 5 that might be a little stronger than any of the. This is so far it's my favorite song we've heard. That's okay.
Well, let's listen to something that maybe gave him a little bit of hope.
'Cause it's gonna be all right.
Gun might blow, but we gon' be alright. Nigga, we gon' be alright.
You know, this song's fucking cool. Like, it's just gotta feel. Okay, Bonnie's supposed to go first. Hold on. Fuck. Go,
It's
Bonnie.
fine. You can
Just
go first.
Go,
There's
Bonnie.
no order to who needs to talk first. Just go.
I don't know. First of all, he's not credited, but Mr. Pharrell Williams is the guy.
Well, he produces it.
But he's also on the hook, though. We gon' be all right. Do you hear me? Do you feel me? That's Pharrell.
Oh, interesting.
Because if you listen, it's not the same voice.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, so Pharrell's here, which is fucking cool. And yes, he does produce it. But this song is like, what I like about this is that nothing about this is going to be an easy feeling, right? And that's what you're starting to like get the sense of. Like, this is an album of struggle. Like, it's supposed to be capturing, I guess, the essence of being black in America is how I understand what To Pimp A Butterfly is trying to do. And this song might be one of the happiest ones on the album per se in terms of feel, and yet it's still just laced with struggle the whole way. I feel like all my life I has to fight. All's my life I has to fight. Hard times be like, yeah. Bad trips be like, yeah. Nazareth, I'm fucked up. Homie, you fucked up. But if God got us, then we gonna be all right. There's so much like peace and struggle mixed into that little intro. And that's just the beginning of the song, right?
And that's like a quote from The Color Purple.
I didn't know that. I don't know what The Color Purple is.
I mean, it's a anyways, Oprah did the movie, and she was the person who was saying that, like, you know, she had to fight every day of her life.
But I mean, it's just but if God got us, then we gonna be all right. And I feel like, I mean, Kendrick's obviously a God-fearing person, and I respect that. But because like to me, I believe in God. I'm cool with saying that, and like I love the idea that God will protect us through these dark times. And you want to argue about if God exists through dark times, I can have that argument if you ever want to. It's not the time or place here. But it's just to know that this is where it's about faith that things are going to work out. This girl I used to date back in the day used to tell me to have faith, that things will always end up the way they're supposed to be. Things will be all right, you know? So for me, I can think back on darker times and even just telling myself, you know, things are going to be all right. Even today, when I think of hard times, things are going to be okay. Things will be all right. Like it's like you need to have that faith that things will be all right in order to even make it a reality. I mean, in order to have anything, you need to visualize it, and then you can achieve it. So, I mean, it's so cool to know that everybody's fucked up, everything's fucking hard, but if God's got us, then, you know, we're going to be all right. If we can have that faith, things will be cool. And then the chorus is like, we're going to be all right. Do you hear me? Do you feel me? Like, we're going to be all right. Like, we need to believe this. Like, we need to know that this isn't the fucking end, you know? Mm-hmm. And then Kendrick lets us know this isn't a happy song. Like, when I wake up, I recognize you looking at me for the pay cut. Bahamas, I be looking at you from the face down. What Mac 11 even boom from the bass down scheming. And let me tell you about my life. Painkillers only put me in the twilight, where pretty pussy and the Benjamin's the highlight. Now tell my mama I love her, but this is what I like, Lord knows. And this is, like, so much gets said there, right? So, like, Kendrick has us, like, he knows that everyone, whether it's his people, we see him as a paycheck. So people either see him as a commodity or as a source of income or revenue. Everybody's looking at that. But then the police and shit are looking at you with your face down as they're coming at you, and I believe, like, you know, harassing, coming at it with but homicide specifically, you know, or just I took it as like police or whatever. And then, you know, you just kind of got the sense of, like, again, this environment that is put there where, like, painkillers is the drug of choice everyone's fucking going on about, or where pussy and money is kind of motivating. Those are the things that you like, that you want, so you're kind of going after them. And then, so reaping everything I sow, so my karma come in heavy. No preliminary hearings on my record. I'm a motherfucking gangster in silence for the record. Just fucking great to me, you know? So, like, karmically speaking, all the bad things in your life and everything come back to haunt you or whatever, but a real G moves in silence. So there is no record of what you've done except for what karma is kind of bringing back to you, in a sense, you know? But he's letting us know that he's a real gangster, you know, because he moves in silence and stuff, which I fucking like. I like that idea. I feel like he's alluding back to he's a real about and authentic. Tell the world I know it's too late, boys and girls. I think I gone cray, drown inside my vices all day. When you please believe when I say, and then, you know, he's kind of, again, playing up on that things where in that first verse we've got that environment that's sucking you in, that's getting you to, like, indulge in the worst parts of the culture, let's say. And wouldn't you know, we've been herping down before when our pride was low, looking at the world like, where do we go? And so you almost have this, like, communal, like, everyone is kind of suffering together vibe coming in on this pre-hook. And, like, when everyone really stops to, like, take around, it's like a realization. We hate Po, want to kill us dead in the street faux show. He's at the preacher's door. His knees getting weak and his gun might blow, but we gonna be all right. So we are suffering through this thing where police brutality is an evident thing. And even though you're going to the church and you're trying to redeem for your sins, you're still doing it with a loaded gun, and a situation might break out where you might have to pop off. But at the end of the day, in light of all of this, in light of all these circumstances, in light of this fucking negative landscape, everyone has to know that we're going to be all right, you know? And then the second verse kind of introduces the character of Lucy, who is Lucifer, who is the devil. But Lucy, fun fact about the devil, it's not an ugly red horn thing. Based on all religious connotations, the devil is supposed to be the most beautiful creature ever existed. So picture the hottest girl or boy, whatever you like, and the devil's hotter than that, right? So Lucy's an interesting, I like the way he paints him. He paints temptation. Temptation is a sexy thing. It's supposed to distract you. It's supposed to lead you away from the righteousness and the goals. And so, you know, what you want, a house or a car, 40 acres and a meal, a piano, a guitar. I believe he said that before. Those exact lines he said in the first song.
Oh, maybe.
Because we just talked about it.
Yeah.
Anything. See, my name is Lucy. I'm your dog, motherfucker. You can live at the mall. You know. And again, like he's talked about in Wesley's theory, these are the things that get you to be kind of committed to, yeah, he did say all that. And then he just tweaked it a bit now to introduce Lucy as this is the temptation side of it, that Uncle Sam wants you to do all this, but here is how it's going to get presented to you. I can see the evil. I can tell it. I know it's illegal. I think about it. I deposit every zero, thinking of my partner, put the candy painted on the regal, digging in my pocket, ain't a profit big enough to feed you. And here it's like, whatever you're doing, whatever illegal or nefarious or whatever activity, even if it's legal and you're just selfish or greedy, at the end of the day, it won't ever be enough. It's going to consume you to a point that just takes you past it all. And where it's really just awful, right? Like, I don't talk about it, be about it every day. A sequel, if I got you, then you know it. Heaven, I can reach you. Pet dog, my dad. I saw. Anyway, I don't really get that last part. I rack, I black on track, so rest assured, my rights, my wrongs, I right till I'm right with God. I feel like Kendrick here is kind of just saying that in light of all these temptations and all of these bad things, and again, I'm not fully sure about this, he's using this platform now to be a better example and to right his soul with God, to deal with the karmic backlash of the different things. So instead of by putting out a positive message, by telling this tale, this story, he can almost redeem himself and maybe undo some of the negative shit from his past. And then, we kind of got the hook a couple more times. And then a little outro, I keep my head up high, I cross my heart, I hope to die. Loving me is complicated. So, which is related to the last song. Yeah. So, in response,
everything kind of ties into
absolutely.
Like something else on this
this
album.
song is a sequential tale. Like, we understand the tax situation, the money. So money becomes the beginning, and then questioning the standards of money is the next song. And then once you have some money, the fact that the hood kind of takes you out, and then you have that mentality struggle that you're dealing with. And then you finally gain that power and influence, so you use it for some bad ways, like fucking the next guy's girl, and then you do some bad stuff. So now you have that internal struggle where you find out loving you is complicated. And here's almost like a little bit of a response with All Right, where it's like, okay, but if you have faith in God and maybe you change the way you're living and you focus on something else, well, shit's going to be all right, because you can have faith that things are going to get picked up and going to go in that direction. And then, fuck, man, it's just so uplifting. Like, honestly, like, it's so uplifting, but it's so heavy at the same time. But, like, I understand, and then you watch the music video where it's real black. By black, I mean it's putting in, like, you're supposed to feel the struggle of being a black person in the hood, watching that music video, listening to this song. There's a couple little extra bits, like a freestyle-y type thing that gets put in before I believe the entirety of the poem, or the bulk of the poem, gets read before the song starts. Like, and it's just such a powerful video. I mean, I felt, when I listened to You followed by All Right, like just those two songs back to back, I feel like it's one of the greatest musical experiences I've ever had in my entire life, from like an emotional point of view. I literally, like, I almost feel like I'm tearing up by the end of that song. The feeling doesn't end there. When you get to the end of this album, like, it's real strong, but like, this is like 5. Like, there's no other number I could attribute to this song. It's just so amazingly put together.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great song. I mean, I'm going to quickly, hit on just a few things that maybe you missed out on. I mean, there's a lot in this. So it's just sort of like he and his people are going to be all right. Like, that's just what he's talking about, like his community and like black people in America, especially. I think that's, his people that he's talking to, and he's, dealing with like the same sort of struggle that they're going through, because, he's part of that. Believe in God. God's going to have your back. Like, just be, make positive decisions, and positive things will happen to you. So, just, it's not easy, but you'll succeed. He's, talks about praying and asking for forgiveness. It's, you can't keep feeling guilty for being who you are, for the things that, that have happened to you, or the things that you've had to do to, in order to succeed. And I think that he's having to realize that as well. He can't just keep letting things making him feel guilty for doing them. and you just have to like you have to go forward. You have to like keep going. And they hate police, but they're gonna rise above all of that and like all of like I'm guessing the police brutality and everything, and they're gonna be better than them. And they're not sure like where they belong, and this is an issue of identity again, as who belongs where and like how do you fit into like your culture. And they're going to overcome. They're going to be all right. And then at the end, it's sort of like the same poem we've heard before again. And I mean, this is like a real issues that he's talking about, and he's relating it to like his people, and he's understanding, and he knows what needs to be done, and he's just saying like, don't worry, even though all these bad things are happening, just believe, in have faith, believe in God, and like things will be better if all of us can make a decision to like be, more positive and forgive ourselves and, not be full of hate, then we can be better.
Right.
So it's a catchy song. It's very powerful. It's very real. It's a 5 on 5, 100%.
And yeah, so then as far as the poem goes, the last line we were at was found herself screaming in the hotel room, and he screams and you starts. But now we get, I didn't want to self-destruct. The evils of Lucy was all around me. We've slightly touched on Lucy in this song, so we're not fully sure what Lucy is yet. So I went running for answers. And that leads us into the for sale interlude.
Yep.
Yeah, for sale.
You said Shireen ain't got nothing on Lucy. I said.
So this is most definitely the second part of the God is Gangsta music video, which is you and for sale ? Interlude. Now that we've covered that. And I don't know, the music video is fine. Kendrick gets some redemption, plays up with some sinful moments, questions stuff. But the song is, I did not like it at first. Like the first 2 or 3 times. But
I like the whatever that instrument is. I always had a fish that was like shaped like that wooden instrument that's like sounds like whatever it is. But it sounded fun. But
I can tell you one thing. You know what chorus was playing through my head most of the week?
What?
No, baby, when I get you, I'ma go hit the throttle with you, smoking, looking, poking that touch. And I'm just like, damn, that shit's it's a hook.
Yeah.
It got like stuck in my head. I don't know. But how do you feel about this song?
So I mean, we talk about Lucy, who is Lucifer, who's the devil. It all kind of ties in. And it's just sort of like how like the devil is trying to like tempt you and like pull you in, and kind of makes like this song kind of makes it sound like it's kind of sexy and like it's teasing you a little bit, but more fun. Then we have like this like heavy breathing that's going on. And then it kind of sounds like it's in like slow-mo for like a minute. And like the devil just wants Kendrick, and Lucy will do anything and, even kill you to get you. And Lucy works hard and is everywhere and wants your trust, is trying to trick you. Women can sometimes be the devil, can take, that shape. They'll pull you away from, from good and like, into something that can be trouble, or like away from like what you're trying to like achieve. Like, they can like tempt you away. So there's a really cool sound to this one. And like, it's a pretty decent message. Basically, just don't let the devil get a hold of you. And just like make like positive decisions and choices, and just don't sell your soul to the devil. So I like this song. I give it a 4.5 on 5.
That's cool. I think it's like an interesting song because like Kendrick starts like I feel like I'm just trying to explain also fundamentally that the love of money is the root of all evil, right? And that in the community, this lust and this jealousy and this desire for things is like the bane of a lot of the negative consequences. Now,
the want, the greed.
This does have like, he is a religious person as I understand it, so this makes sense from like a Christian perspective, but it also just kind of makes sense from like a actual perspective, Like, I don't know. It's also just the way he's told the story, right? He waited till we've gone through, like, you gotten some shit happening. You've gone through some regret. You need to go and put some faith in God and understand that, like, through God is how our community is going to improve and become better. And when you do get to that point where you're fighting God, or you're finding God. Now it comes down to identifying the various sins and dark things in your life, such as understanding how the devil gonna fuck with your shit and make temptation. Now what I find is crazy is he does have this like ethereal feel to this track where everything's kind of higher pitched and crazy, and he takes on this whole weird voice that's Lucy talking to Kendrick the whole way through the song, you know? So, like, you know, even if you look at that chorus, it's like smoking Lokin, parking that doja till I'm out of with you. And when I'm riding here, I'm riding dirty. Registration is out of service. These are all just kind of, or drinking, driving drunk. You can see the car swerving. It's all just like these little things that the devil will get you to do that will maybe end up with a police car pulling you over and causing all sorts of bad things in your life, you know? So it's definitely kind of looking at that. And then in the verse, it's just like, I remember when you took me to the bar last week, baby. You looked me in the eyes about 4 or 5 times till I was hypnotized when you clarified that I want you. And it's all like spacey. So this is like Lucy talking to him, like saying, you know, I actually do want you, Kendrick. Oh, you thought I was playing? Like someone's playing it like it's a girl, like this hot girl that all of a sudden wants Kendrick. Yeah. And then he said, Shireen ain't got nothing on Lucy. I said, you crazy. Roses are red, violets are blue, but me and you both pushing up daisies if I want you. So here it's like he's saying that we know Shireen is the girl he obsessed about in the last album, so Shireen is somebody that's super fucking important to him. And at the end of the day, like Lucy is so fantastic that Shireen can't even touch Lucy in terms of the quality of what's being presented to him. But by indulging in this, you're going to end up pushing up daisies, which kind of sounds like death to me, you know, like you're buried, and that's how I took that. Maybe I'm wrong. And then he got the whole like second verse where he's like, you said to me, you said your name was Lucy, and he said, where's Ricardo? So I guess this is Kendrick talking, but talking what Lucy said to him in this weird lucid thing. So where's Ricardo as in I love Lucy, you know, but no, that's not the kind of Lucy it's supposed to be. Oh, not the show. You spit the little rap when I turned 26. I was like, oh shit, you know, my name's Lucy. Usually I don't do this, but I see you and me, Kendrick. Lucy, you give me no worries. Here, I'll give you millions. So it's almost like he's signing this contract, all of his fame. He just paints out the rest of his verse where it's like all of the stuff that's being given to him, all the money, all of the privilege, all of the stuff. It's kind of a result of this like contract that the devil's put together to get him. And some stuff was pointing out is like that the devil works harder than you, you know, like the devil's always on their grind. So even though you might be on your grind and you might be focused and you might be doing some stuff, you got to know that the devil is literally coming at you 24/7, even more to us. Like it's really like superhuman with it, you know, like, and that the devil's been watching you your whole life, and that what they're going to put in front of your face in that contract that they want you to sign is going to be all of your vices. Like if you think about the Cambridge Analytica scandal with the big data where these Facebook algorithms could predict exactly what would be the temptations that you follow. It's almost like this algorithm's like the devil, where it knows that if it puts a 5'2" Latina in front of you, maybe you're going to be a little more distracted than if you put another type of lady in front of you, let's say, and stuff like that. And so the devil knows how to get you, and I think this is just kind of putting it out that it's like this poison gets put in front of you and it's always going to be what you want, and you just need to be aware that it's going to come at you in this kind of like ethereal, dreamy kind of way. Like you're not going to see it coming, you're not going to be expecting it per se, and it's to I guess to be aware that Lucy is out there and that everything has its cost, right? Yeah. And that no matter what it is, you're going to want whatever you're going to be able, you're going to have your price, and if you sign that contract, you're going to end up with maybe a lot of the bad things that have been previously described in this album happening to you, which I think is interesting because this is right at the middle as it's kind of putting this in, and you know, everyone's got a cost, and I think there's a bit of a tone with what comes next on this album, as though Kendrick's reached this moment of understanding the devil and this situation, and everything that comes after this is like the journey of recovery almost that comes from the toxicity of what came before. So it's a really super awesome halfway point. Yeah. I mean, this song's another 5 to me. It's fucking awesome. Like it really just hits that emotion of what temptation, it's like temptation immortalized, somebody sweet talking you the entire way through. And then we get the poem again. And so he went running for answers from Lucy until he came home. So yeah, instead of talking about Mama, which we would normally do now, it's been pretty long. I think we're going to split this up in 2 so that tomorrow, whenever you're watching this, you're going to get the whole part 2 of this. We're going to finish recording it now, but instead of making it like a stupidly almost 4-hour video that maybe people aren't as interested in clicking on, we'll cut it into 2 videos instead. So we're about to go do the second half of that. Thank you for your patience with us. Feel free to leave any comments in it, how you feel so far about the review. Sorry for not finishing it now. But special thanks to Mozart, Lindell Williams, and Super Old School 1994. They're awesome. They're our patrons. They support us. They can participate in the request raffle, which is happening next week. Throw in an album you want to see us cover, and who knows, maybe you'll see us do it. You can also get access to content early and all of that fun stuff. So I'm just kind of doing the quick little wrap up. And then, we're going to just do this in a second video and finish up the review. So catch you soon.
Bye.
Bye.